All right, let's dive into a feeling I think a lot of us have been having lately. It's this kind of low-grade hum of anxiety, right? A sense that something just isn't quite right with the world. In this explainer, we're going to unpack a really provocative idea. What if the system we live in isn't actually broken, but is running exactly the way it was designed to? Let's get into it.
You know what I'm talking about. It's that feeling that kind of creeps up on you at the grocery store, or when you're filling up your car, or maybe when you dare to look at your retirement account. Well, the source material we're looking at today says you're not just being paranoid. It's a real, shared experience, and it's a signal that the promises we've all built our lives on are, well, they're starting to show some pretty serious cracks.
So where does this feeling even come from? The source we're examining argues it's not about one single big event. Nope, it's more like a slow, steady erosion of the very ground we're standing on. It's the small cracks that suddenly start appearing in what we always thought was a solid foundation.
And these aren't just abstract ideas. Our source calls them the daily tremors, and I think that's the perfect way to put it. They're the specific, tangible things that make up that big feeling of instability. I mean, any one of these on its own, you could probably handle it. But when they're all happening at once, together, they create this constant pressure, a nagging feeling that things are just fundamentally less secure than they used to be.
And this, right here, this gets to the absolute heart of the frustration. This quote from the source material just nails that sense of betrayal, doesn't it? It's the feeling that you've been playing by the rules your whole life, only to look up and realize the game might have been rigged from the get-go. The promise was simple: work hard, do the right thing, and you get ahead. But for a lot of people, the reality just feels different.
Okay, so even though this feeling is deeply personal, the source argues that the pattern itself is anything but new. In fact, if we kind of pull the camera back and look at the big picture of history, we might just be living through a pretty predictable cyclical phase.
People like Ray Dalio or the authors of a book called The Fourth Turning have laid out these big historical models. And what they basically suggest is that societies go through these predictable cycles. You have growth, then stability, and then, inevitably, crisis and change. The argument here is that we're not in some crazy, unprecedented time. We're actually in a well-documented phase of transformation, a period of unraveling that has happened before and, will probably happen again.
And this brings us to what is, without a doubt, the most challenging idea in this whole explainer. What if our main assumption about the problem is completely wrong? What if what we're all seeing as a bug is actually a feature?
So here it is. This is the big idea. The source says we need a total shift in how we look at things. The system isn't failing, it's succeeding at what it was really designed to do. Just let that sink in for a minute. If that's true, it changes everything about how you approach the problem, right? This comparison really lays it all out. On the one hand, you have the common view. Our system is broken, it's dysfunctional, and we need our leaders to fix it. But the view from our source is completely different. It suggests the system isn't broken at all. In fact, it's working great, but for a very small, select group. And in that view, all those promises about making things better for everyone, well, maybe that was never the real point.
And this is the turning point. Because if you accept that idea, even just for a second, that the huge overarching system is outside of your control and might not have your best interests at heart, it's actually kind of freeing. You stop trying to fix the unfixable, and instead, the question becomes super practical. Okay, then what can I do? Where should I actually put my energy?
And that leads us straight to the solution that the source proposes. It's not about changing the whole world. It's about building your own world to be as strong and resilient as possible. So let's take a look at the blueprint for building what it calls your personal fortress. The framework is pretty straightforward, built on 3 really actionable pillars. And the very first one, the foundation for this whole fortress, it starts with the people right there around you.
Think about it. When trust in the big institutions starts to fade, where do you turn? You turn to your neighbors, your friends, your family. The source makes a powerful argument that these real-world, local relationships are the most valuable currency you can have in uncertain times. They create this web of mutual support that simply can't be printed or devalued.
Okay, pillar number 2 is all about what you can do. The goal here is really simple. Become less dependent on these huge, fragile systems and supply chains. Learning practical skills, whether it's growing some of your own food, knowing basic first aid, or understanding how to keep your home secure, every skill you learn makes you just a little bit more independent and a whole lot less vulnerable when things get shaky.
And finally,
The third pillar is all about protecting your wealth by understanding a really key difference. On one side, you've got what the source calls paper promises, things like currency, stocks, bonds. They're part of the system and their value can be changed by the system. But on the other side, you have tangible assets, like the gold and silver mentioned in the source. These things exist outside the system. They have their own intrinsic worth, and they can act as a kind of financial insurance policy against risk in that larger system.
Now, it's really important to stress this next point from the source material. This whole framework, it's not about hiding in a bunker and being consumed by fear. It's presented as a completely rational, pragmatic response to seeing the world for what it is, not what we wish it was. It's just about taking logical steps to build real, lasting security for yourself and your family.
And so, we're left with a very direct and very personal question. It shifts the entire focus away from the huge, uncontrollable world and brings it right back to you. It's a call to think not about what they should be doing, but about what you can do, starting today, to build your own fortress, your own resilience. Something to think about. Thanks for tuning in.